so I'd like to call the regular council of May 14th to order. I will ask if you have a cell phone on you that you put it on vibrate, please. And with that, we're going straight into delegations, a new format for us, but we think it works, and you guys know when to be here and look at the full crowd, so welcome. Our first delegation is 2.1, Dale Rose and Jared Neufeld, Chartered Professional Accountants from Sandra Rose, Bone and Grindle, so please come up. You gentlemen are looking rather dapper this morning.
Tried. Had to dress up. We knew we were coming to the city. Well, thank you very much, Acting Mayor Wilbur. We're here to present the Independent Auditor's Report for the year ended December 31st, 2017. The years go by fast. It's addressed to yourselves, Mayor and Council of the Corporation of the City of Dawson Creek. The first paragraph lays out the financial statements, says we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the Corporation of the City of Dawson Creek, which comprise a consolidated statement of financial position as at December 31st, 2017, and the consolidated statements of operations and changes in surplus and changes in net debt and cash flows for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. So in other words, your financial statement package. These financial statements are the responsibility of management, and management has acknowledged that responsibility in their report, just preceding ours. Our responsibility as auditors is to prepare an audit based on Canadian auditing standards to ensure the financial statements are not materially misstated, and that's a summary of 2 or 3 paragraphs. We believe the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinion, which states, in our opinion, the consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Corporation of the City of Dawson Creek as at December 31st, 2017, and its results of operations, cash flows, and changes in net debt for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So once again, a clean audit report. So congratulations to Mayor, Council, and management on that.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Well, good job. Thank you so much. Okay. And thank you, staff, for getting it all together for us.
Yes.
Job well done.
I'd like to extend a thank you to the finance staff for their assistance and cooperation in getting the audit done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Before I move on to 2.2, I just want to say Councillor Rogers is currently coaching the BC provincial rugby team, so we wish them well on their endeavor, and Mayor Bumstead's busy down the Lower Mainland representing us. So with that, we're going to move on to 2.2, and it's always nice when great people in our community are recognized. So Terry, if you want to come up, I just would like to formally recognize you, and while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit about this award. So Terry's a recipient of the BC Community Achievement Award. British Columbia's communities are shaped by the people who live in them, and especially by contributions of extraordinary individuals. The BC Community Achievement Awards celebrate British Columbians who go above and beyond in their dedication and service to others, and who devote time and energy to making their communities more caring, dynamic, beautiful, healthy, and unique. They inspire by example, and Terry has been recognized for all of her work with KPAC, the art gallery, and just all the things she does in the community. So Terry, just please come up and be recognized, and congratulations on your award. And similar to Dale Bumstead, we're huggers.
Oh, we are huggers.
So Terry's been very devoted to our community and just really beefed up all of that you do and brought your wonderful energy and just your unique ideas. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Do you have anything you would like to say about your work?
It's just so nice to be recognized for doing something that I really love doing. Between the art gallery and the Community Arts Council, and KPAC, of course, was #1 for a very long time in my life. I really appreciate this recognition, and volunteers don't do it for the recognition, we do it because we love what we do. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Terry. All right, thank you so much. We're going to move on to 2.3. So I believe we have some representatives from the Sons of Norway, so please come up.
Yeah.
We have a son today, yes.
I,
Come up, I want to see you. Oh, turn it around, you got it. You got it backwards.
I knew Cheryl would help.
you ready?
Do you? I think you got the back side.
It's colorful side, it's not.
There we go.
There we go.
You guys did upside down. Okay, guys, here's the flag.
I think we need to.
We're getting organized here. We're getting organized here.
There we go.
All right.
We hope the city doesn't have as much trouble hanging.
All right. Whereas Norwegian Constitution Day is the National Day of Norway and is officially the national holiday observed on May 17th each year. And whereas among Norwegians, the day is referred to as simply, I'm going to try and not massacre this, Sind Mai and Signed Mai.
Suit in the man.
Nice. There you go.
Sit in the mud.
That. Both meeting May 17th. And whereas this day on which celebrations mark the signing of the Norwegian Constitution in Eidsvoll. Good, thank goodness they're here, my goodness. And whereas on May 17th, Norwegian Canadians will express their appreciation and pride for their heritage through observance of the Norway's Constitution Day. And now I do thereby here proclaim May 17th, 2018 to be Norwegian Constitution Day in Dawson Creek.
Yay.
Congratulations. Right. Would you like to tell us a little bit?
What do you want, a history lesson?
Sure. Well, I can't even say the word. Can I teach me some Norwegian?
Okay, what do you want to know? So thank you to the city of Dawson Creek. Yeah, 1814 the Constitution was signed in Norway, and at the time it was actually owned by Denmark, and they just lost the Napoleonic Wars, and so they signed this Constitution in an attempt not to get owned by Sweden, but they were unsuccessful. So from 1814 to 1905, they were actually part of Sweden. They used to be part of Denmark, and then they were part of Sweden. And then in 1905, they finally became an independent country. And this day is always celebrated. It's a Constitution Day, but it's more of an Independence Day. And if you ever go to Norway, there's big celebrations and parades. It's quite the deal. Yeah,
Nice.
it's really amazing. Yeah, so,
Perfect.
yeah.
Well, thank you and congratulations. Thanks for coming. I know you have a request to fly the flag.
Yeah, we do.
So we're
for
gonna.
the week of.
Yeah.
This week,
So
we'll be all right.
if you leave us the flag, and then we'll bring it up
Yeah.
under Mayor's business and
Okay.
set a timeline.
Very much
Perfect.
appreciate that.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's
Okay.
give him a round of applause. Yay. All right. Thank you.
Tusen takk. Thousand thanks.
Now, do some talk. I'm writing that down.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on to 2.4, and I believe we have Jamie Maxwell from Greasy Chains Bike Club and some city staff. And we're going to do a proclamation for Bike to Work and School and the Commuter Challenge. Melanie's got her lovely board. Can you help with that? We got the bike. The bike. Perfect. All right, excellent. Whereas cycling, walking, transit, and carpooling are recognized as beneficial, active, and shared models of environmentally responsible means of transportation, and whereas the City of Dawson Creek recognizes the benefit of an active, healthy lifestyle for our citizens, and whereas the City of Dawson Creek recognizes the vital importance of taking action to reduce our harmful impact on the environment, and whereas the City of Dawson Creek encourages all its citizens to take part in the enjoyment and benefit of cycling, walking, transit, and carpooling, now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim the week of May 28th to June 3rd as Cycling to Work and School Week, and June 3rd to 9th as the Commuter Challenge, as Cycling to Work and School Week and Commuter Challenge in Dawson Creek. So there you go, and I get to hold more stuff. You want to tell us a little about the Biking to Work Week, Commuter Challenge? Tell us about these trophies.
Oh, right. So this is, no, Melanie,
Okay.
This one is?
That is an individual cyclist who cycles the most kilometers, gets her name, bragging rights on this little plaque. And the one that Gabrielle is holding is for the team challenge. So whoever gets to has the most kilometers, they get to have this for the year as bragging rights.
So the one thing that Melanie's told me is they've broadened the definition of this week. So for many years, living a block from work, I never really felt like I could ride my bike to work. And so I think it's pretty well wide open to any cycling accumulation, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So, you know, all of our community cycling as a club, well, we could, you know, create a team entry or individual entries, and riding the wonderful roads of the peace, we could be in the contest.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
And Dawson Creek Triathlon, we're at 16 entries already online. So July 15th, ages 4 to, last year we had a 70 plus.
Nice.
It was a married couple from Grand Prairie, I think, and I'm sure 76, 77, right? So anyone, we accept team entries as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get the plate.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks, Cheryl. All right, so we're going to move on to 2.4, and we have Kathleen Connolly here from our Dawson Creek District Chamber. So the floor is yours.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Thank you for having me here this morning. A couple things I wanted to do today. Firstly, I want to talk about some of the stuff that we're working on this week and in this month with the Chamber, and then I want to talk to you about a promotion that we're hoping that the city would participate in. So we had our AGM on Friday. I know Mayor Dale was there and swore in our board, and I just want to share with you our new board members. We have Patricia Adamson, who's with Royal LePage, Jennifer Brandt, who's the branch manager for Bank of Montreal, Rob Brown, who's the editor of The Mirror, Tammy Cameron with Northview Apartment REIT, Pam Eels with Industry Training Authority, Sue Kenny with Peace Liard Community Futures, Chris Richards with Rosenau Transport, and Wanda Mondrell, who is with Royal LePage. So we're happy this year to grow our board. We have historically been a board of 7. We passed a bylaw to move to 9, so we're happy to see that we're able to get nine folks who wanted to participate and be on our board, so we're really excited to do work with them this year. And this initiative that I'm talking to you about today is one of the things we're working on. The other really cool thing is this week, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Federation Flight. It's a flight of 100 business leaders and Indigenous leaders from the province of British Columbia who are flying to Edmonton to meet with Rachel Notley and her cabinet, as well as with the Edmonton Chamber, to talk about some of the issues that we're having around Trans Mountain and other issues. I was invited to be on that flight, so I'll be headed to Edmonton on Wednesday, so really proud to represent our business community on that. I've also been asked to participate. The BC LNG Alliance is doing a video advertisement about industry in the Northeast and people who live here and benefit from what we do here. And so I've been asked to participate in that, so I'm excited to do that. And the last thing is our BC Chamber AGM is next week in Kamloops. I've been asked to moderate a panel called Disruptive Energy, which really the focus is trying to remove the gridlock that exists in the energy conversation today. People seem to be in a stalemate on a conversation that, in my opinion, is archaic. We have moved so far past the conversation that is now at least 10 years old. So we have a really brilliant group of panelists, so we're going to be having that conversation. I'm really excited to moderate at that. CAP is bringing their Energy IQ map. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but it is a great opportunity to explain how energy works across the country, and not just oil and gas, but coal, hydro, all of those great things. So we're really looking forward this year at AGM to really bring the energy conversation to the south. So we're proud to take that with us. So those are just some of the things that we've got going on in the next couple of weeks. What I'm really here to talk to you today about is we're initiating a campaign called Vocal for Local. And so Shaylee's crew was kind enough to do a decal for us, which I've now decided is not exactly right, so we're having you redo it. But the whole idea is we're going to do door decals as well as t-shirts. And what we're going to ask is that our business community will wear these t-shirts to really remind people how important it is to use local content, to use local suppliers, and to support what we've got going on locally. So we have the co-op has come on as a sponsor. We've received several other offers for sponsorship as well to help pay for the t-shirts. We've reached out to some of our businesses everywhere from Northern Toy Box and Software Emporium, Tryon, to Browns and Corlanes, who are all happy to participate. What we'll be asking them to do, we're hoping to launch this for Fall Fair Week. We think that's a really good week to remind folks from within our community and outside of our community to pay attention to local content. So the launch would be in August. We've talked to MLA Bernier as well as Mayor Dale. They both offered to be there and participate in the launch. So then what we would ask folks to do is to create their own marketing plan. So as a business, we'll have content through signs and things and promo shops. So you could do any sort of swag marketing plan that you wanted to do with hashtag Vocal for Local. We would ask that on all the social media, hashtag Vocal for Local. Door signs will say that, t-shirts will say that. And we're really hoping to reinforce that message that we certainly understand that people like to go outside of our community to shop, but we really need to remember that our businesses are the folks who do sponsor activities like soccer, rugby. I mean, they're such a huge part of our community, and we can't do it without businesses, and they can't do it without that relationship between business and consumers. So what I'm asking, I do have an ask for the city. I would like to be able to use the City of Dawson Creek logo on the t-shirt. It would cost the city nothing to participate in it. We'd also ask that when we launch it, that councilors and staff would wear the t-shirts. And then what we're suggesting is that on Fridays, sort of going forward, when you have jeans days, maybe you want to do a jeans and Vocal for Local t-shirt day. Just really, I don't want it to be just like a one-off. I want this really to become a part of our business culture. So the idea is if we have logos available at promo shop, businesses could go in and do their own t-shirts or marketing plans or whatever around that. So my ask today for council is to be able to use your logo on our marketing material.
Perfect.
That's it.
Does anyone have any questions for Kathleen? No? All right, well, we'll put that under Mayor's business.
Thank you so
and bring it
much.
back. Thank you.
Yeah, have a great week.
All right, next up, we have our Mile Zero Cruisers, so please come up. I can officially say it's summer. I got a sunburn this weekend, so I'm waiting for this show and shine.
Yes. Good morning, Acting Mayor Wilbur and members of council. My name is James Cox. I'm the president of the Mile Zero Cruisers. I'm here with Jerry Rude, who's a director. I appreciate the time yourself and council has given to our club. This year is our 24th anniversary of the club being part of Dawson Creek. Last year we had 438 registered cars in our downtown core. We had 2 couples that drove up the Alaska Highway in 2016 that walked our show. Last year they drove up from North and South Dakota with their classic cars and participated in our show. To me, that shows the caliber of our event we put on. Just to update you on some things the club has done for our community, our Christmas time toy drive was a great success with donating over 400 bags of filled toys, mitts, hats to our much less fortunate families of our community. The Rotary Manor now has a classic car parked on their grounds, so the elders of our community can sit in it and reminisce about the good old days. We have purchased our own traffic delineators and have the support from a local businesses for barricades so the club would not have to depend on the city's property due to previous years of council questioning the shortage of barricades from the club using them. Today, we ask for the city to support the club by putting out our no parking signs on Saturday afternoon and collecting them on Sunday after the show, as the club members are helping put on a supper for over 500 guests, managing other parts of the event also. Also, we are asking to have the city's trash cans emptied and our streets and sidewalk cleaned for the Sunday show and shine in our downtown area. This would help show our participants and general public how beautiful Dawson Creek is. I feel with the support from the city of Dawson Creek, we can make our show the biggest and best car show in northern BC and northern Alberta. I would also like to thank those on council who partook in our event last year and invite those here today to come see the show we put on for Dawson Creek. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for our coaches? Well, I want to say thank you because it is probably the largest event we have in Dawson Creek that's free to families to attend, and I know that so many look forward to that show and shine, and I know I do as well. And I also wanted to say the Mile Zero Cruisers are also a member of our Love of Dawson Creek program, and I enjoy having you there and supporting the stuff you have and putting your stuff out. So thank you, and I look forward to it, and I'm sure the rest of council does as well. And your requests will come back on your mayor's business.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, so we're going to move on to 2.7. Do we have the class here from Canelta? Down? Yeah. So next we have the Canelta Elementary Grade 7 Leadership Group in attendance, and they have a request for assistance.
Yep.
Welcome. Can you have a seat? That way we can hear you on the microphone.
So you guys can just stand down too, okay? Stand that we're written on. So thank you for allowing us to come before you today. So we have the some of the grade 7 leadership group from our school.
Yep.
And they're just going to introduce themselves.
Perfect.
I'm Dana Hebert. I'm Cameron Myers.
I'm Cameron Palfy. I'm Kylie Inglot.
I'm Gus Cox.
I'm Hayden Lupgren.
I'm Denton here.
And I'm Wanda McIntyre.
Okay. All right. So take it away. It's all yours.
Thank you for having us here today. We were approached by Mark Rogers, and he said that we should come here and ask for a travel fund.
So explain that.
Can you tell us what your travel is about and what you're going to be doing?
We're going to Vancouver at the end of May, and we're going to the Parliament building and Victoria and doing some stuff there.
And part of their leadership role at the school, Hayden's just going to tell you.
At our school, we do jobs like we do the announcements in the morning, and we do recycling and go to all the classes and do a bunch of monitoring for the little kids so the teachers can have their lunch.
So we've been fundraising all year then?
We've been fundraising all year, like selling 50/50 tickets, and we're looking for help with our travel fees.
So part of they've been working all year with different, like an online auction fundraiser. We've done a garage sale. We've been also just on a daily basis at school. They're part of the leadership in the school. They can pretty much run the morning announcements and get the day started, and they fill in just at the drop of a hat. So they've been really conscientious. Our school has done a trip for many, many years. It was started years and years ago. And in the past, we've had funding from a provincial grant. So we would receive around $9,000 to go to Parliament, so it's called Capital for Kids. And so this grant stopped a couple of years ago. So when Mr. Rogers brought it up that we should come here to you, we're just, just an awareness piece that our school is trying to continue to go to Parliament, because many of the kids, how many of you have not been to Parliament? So, and this is just a small section of the group. There's 26 kids that will go. So it's important for them to bond as a group and to experience the province in the bus situation. We see the province. And the ferry ride is always very, very exciting for kids that have never been out of Dawson Creek. We're a lucky group. We have a lot of good support from the community, so we're just requesting some assistance with the travel costs. And the travel costs are about $13,000 for the bus and the ferry ride. So,
do you have a specific amount that you're requesting?
We didn't do that. We just were wondering if there was a percentage that you could pay of that. So we did not have a specific amount. We are close to our goal right now. There's still some people that we could go ask for some donations, but we would, we're a couple $1,000s short of the goal for sure.
Okay.
So, and we are leaving in a couple of weeks. So.
Perfect. Well, we will bring it back under Mayor's business so council can discuss it. Thank you for attending today, and thank you for being leaders in our community, because we need that, and we need great leadership groups in our schools to teach the younger kids how to make healthy and positive choices. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We'd just like to
invite you to come to Canalta sometime.
So at
we
the
would
end,
love to.
Yeah, what we'll do is we take pictures, and then there's some feedback on. There's a slideshow that we do at the end, but they also share some of their learning at the end of the trip as well. So
perfect. We would love to attend.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so that is going to bring us into new councillor business. Do any of our councillors have new business? Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, so last week the mayor, Councillor Wilbur, and I attended NCLGA in Fort Nelson. It was pretty well attended. I think I don't know, we had a couple hundred delegates at least, and then all of the other stakeholders that attend. And so it was really nice to bring that group of people to Fort Nelson to stay in their hotels and eat in their restaurants and give them a little boost. I know it was pretty slow around there, that's for sure. So over 45 resolutions got passed from the North Central Local Government Association's region, and so we'll be defending those at UBCM. So it was a good week. We got to see a lot of our colleagues from across the north, and yeah, it was good. And I thank the city for allowing us to attend that.
And I will just add to that, congratulations to Councillor Schumann, re-elected as Director at Large. So we look forward to her dedication on the board. And a big thank you to Fort Nelson and the Fort Nelson First Nations. It was amazing to see all the posters in the windows of the businesses having draws or offering discounts to delegates, and being able to use their whole facility, the swimming pool and everything, for free with our passes. So thank you to Fort Nelson, and great job. And thank you to Chief Dickey and Mayor Streeper for being there for the whole week and being a part of our AGM. So that was awesome. Does anyone else have anything? Oh, they're being easy on me. All right. Let's move along. So we have 7.2. Is that right?
No.
No, I got to flip my page. Minutes. 4.1, minutes of the budget meeting of council from April 16th for adoption. Councillor McFadden, Councillor Javetkoff. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. 4.2, we have the minutes of the public hearing for the zoning amendment bylaw 4376. Councillor Javetkoff, Councillor Schumann. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. 4.3, we have the minutes of the regular council meeting of April 30th for adoption. Counselor Javetkov, Counselor Schumann. Errors, omissions, all in favor? All right, I have a lot of minutes, holy, but Jesus, we've been busy. Minutes of the special meeting of council May 2nd for adoption. Counselor Schumann, Counselor McFadden. Errors, omissions, all in favor? It's carried. And then we have the minutes of the special meeting of council May 4th for adoption. Counselor Schumann, Counselor McFadden. Are you doing that? Or are you moving your glasses? All right. Any errors or omissions?
Either
All in
or.
favor? Carried. All right. Any business arising from any of our minutes? Nope. Okay, so we're going to move right along into correspondence. 6.1, we have a letter from Rick Eckel, President of the Northeast BC Crime Stoppers. Invitation to the 18th annual Northeast BC Crime Stoppers Gold Tournament. Councillor Schumann.
I would move that we accept this for information.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Javetkov. All in favor? It's carried. 6.2, we have a letter from Connie Patterson, President of the Dawson Creek Exhibition Association, regarding Dawson Creek Exhibition Association request for equipment and staff. Councillor Schumann.
So through you to staff, I'm just wondering what the difference is this year from last year. I know that Carl doesn't work, Carl Gitschiff doesn't work for us anymore, so does that change anything in the whole scheme of things with this?
So through you, Chair, this request is a little different than previous requests in that they're rebuilding the track and have requested some clay. So we do have some clay at our airport that we can provide if council so wishes. They're asking for a couple of operators throughout the week, so it is a little different, a little more work this year, and so not quite typical.
Okay. What is council's wish? Councillor Parslow?
I would move that we meet the request as outlined in this letter.
Seconded by Councillor McFadden. Any discussion? All those in favor? And it's carried. All right, moving along, we have the letter from Hillary Gould, Manager of Visitor Services, regarding counselor to counselor opportunity. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, I would move that we accept this for information and encourage everybody to attend. It's always a lot of fun to be down at the visitor center greeting the visitors. And yeah, so just for information.
Okay. Second, Councillor Javetkov. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. Okay, so 6.4, we have a letter from the Board of Directors of the Dawson Creek Stable and Arena Association, request to host lease auction, ranch horse and prospect horse competition sale on June 2nd at the Lakota Agroplex. Councillor Javetkov.
I'll move we approve the request.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Parslow. Any discussion? No. All those in favor? It's carried. All right, we have the letter from Carolyn Hutma, Dawson Creek Seals Swim Club, regarding the Ken Bork Aquatic Center camping and equipment request, and that's for August 4th to 5th, 2018. Councillor Parslow?
I move that we meet this request.
Seconded by Councillor McFadden. Any discussion? All those in favor? And it's carried. Right, we're going to move into reports. So report number 7.1. Or it's item 7.1, sorry, report number 18045 from the Development Services Manager regarding the bylaw enforcement policy update. Councillor McFadden.
I'll make the motion that report number 18045 from the Development Services Manager regarding bylaw enforcement policy update be received. Further, that the proposed policy attached to this report be approved pending the required 30-day review period.
Seconded by Councillor Schumann. Any discussion? All those in favor? And it's carried. Right, item 7.2 is report number 18-071 from our Deputy Chief Financial Officer, 2017 audited financial statements. Councillor Parslow?
I move that report number 18071 from the Deputy Chief Financial Officer, the 2017 audited financial statements be received. Further, that the 2017 audited financial statements be approved as presented.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Schumann, any discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. All right, item 7.3, report number 18056 from the Corporate Administrator, the annual report. Councillor Parslow?
I move that report number 18-056 from the Director of Corporate Administration, the Dawson Creek Annual Report for 2017 be received. Further, that the City of Dawson Creek's annual report for 2017 be made available to the public for review and comments. Further, that June the 25th be declared the annual meeting, at which time Council will receive final input from the public before approving the annual report.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor McFadden, any discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. All right, 7.4 is report number 18-068 from the Energy Manager, and that's regarding our curbside recycling communications. Councillor Schumann?
I move report number 18068 from the Energy Manager regarding curbside recycling communications overview be received. Further, that the communications plan attached to this report titled Curbside Recycling Communications Plan Overview be approved as presented.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor McFadden, any discussion? Councillor Javetkov?
I'll be voting against the motion. The additional costs in here weren't brought up when we discussed the implementing a curbside recycling project, and according to the financial implications and the personnel implications, there's potentially up to $100,000 of indirect costs, indirect costs for this project, in that there's a half of an FTE required, or a 6 month of a full-time FTE. So that means that the work that that person would normally be doing would have to be backfilled. So I'm not in favor of it. I mean, we were led to believe, or I was led to believe, the way I understood it, that the full cost was going to be the $686 per resident, and you know, this is kind of an addition to that.
Right, do we have Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, I think that some educational work needs to be done, or we're gonna run into the problems that other communities are running into with contamination, et cetera, et cetera. Under financial, I read further operational funding resources are not anticipated for the implementation of this plan. So I'm not sure where $100,000 comes from, but I will be voting in favor of providing educational materials to our community around this new service.
Right. Duncan, could you
Sure.
give some information?
So through you, Chair, it is a reallocation of existing staff, so there will be no new staff person hired to complete this work, but it will be a reallocation of resources. And some of the programs that we previously participated in particular the sustainability clerk, will be reallocated to this program. Our understanding in addressing contamination levels and a clean rollout, it's important that education and a robust education plan is included in the curbside recycling program.
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
You know, if we have a staff person that we can just reallocate anywhere we want without affecting other workload, I would be surprised. The other thing, the question I got is, are we approving this bylaw at this point as well? The bylaw 4380? Is that in this motion?
It's in the bylaws.
Yeah.
It's under
Further in the
bylaws.
agenda.
It's not under this motion, it's under bylaws.
It's under bylaws, yeah, okay.
Right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried. All right, so 7.5 is report number 18075 from the corporate administrator regarding the 2018 capital projects Northern Development Initiative Trust applications. Councillor Schumann.
So the Dawson Creek, I make the recommendation that the Dawson Creek Council support the following applications to Northern Development Initiative Trust. Number 1, Community Halls and Recreation Facilities Grant up to $50,000 of the proposed $121,000 budget for the Ken Boric Aquatic Center facility upgrades. Number 2, Community Halls and Recreation Facilities Grant up to $50,000 of the proposed $129,000 budget of the Ken Boric Aquatic Center facility upgrades, painting the garage door, concrete pad, pipe, and pump replacement project. Number 3, Economic Diversification Infrastructure Grant of up to $70,000 of the proposed $100,000 budget for the airport tower boiler system replacement project. And number 4, the Economic Diversification Infrastructure Grant of up to $16,800 of the proposed $24,000 budget for the airport ramp hog project. And number 5, to the Economic Diversification Infrastructure Grant of up to $82,250 of the proposed $117,500 budget for the City of Dawson Creek scissor lift acquisition project.
Have seconder. Councillor Parslow. Any discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. All right, 7.6 is report number 18-078 from the General Manager of Development regarding requests for quotations for the 2018-16 asphalt maintenance program. Councillor Javetkov.
Move that report number 18-078 from the General Manager of Development Services, RFQ 2018-16 asphalt maintenance program be received. Further, that council award RFQ 2018-16 to Peters Brothers Construction Limited for the full amount of the tender.
Seconder. Councillor Parslow. Any discussion? Councillor Javetkov.
So this varies from the recommendation on the report, and the reason that I've varied it is because the request for proposals went out for the requirements in the city to do the repairs, and the recommendation in the report is that we reduce it by half. To me, the road repair should take priority, so I think we need to find the funds for this project, and I'd recommend finding them out of the operational budget, but we can't keep deferring the road maintenance until, you know, the roads basically fall apart totally.
Right, do you have any further discussion? Duncan, please.
So through you, Chair, the $208,000 is what's allocated in the budget. As Councillor Javetkov noted, we would have to find the additional funding. You could defer other projects. As far as the operational budget, I don't know that there's a surplus that would accommodate this, so it would be a reduction in some service that we're delivering.
Councillor Javetkov.
I'm willing to go through the line items in the budget, in the operational budget, and make a recommendation on where that money can come from. I do not think that we need to defer other projects. I think there's enough flexibility with low impact activities in the operational budget that we could find that money.
Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, road maintenance is a big problem for all northern communities. But we have this baseline, as I view it, of how much we should be spending on our roads. We're not doing that, and deferring this is just escalating or deepening a problem. So I believe we should do our best to try to find the funds from other sources, and hopefully next year, Council of the Day will be able to find funds to adequately look after our roads, which are deteriorating badly. Thank you.
Anyone else? I don't call a question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. Councillor Schumann, do you want that recorded? Schumann and Wilbur against. All right, so we have item 7.7, report number 18-079 from the Development Services Manager regarding cannabis implementation plan. Duncan?
Sorry, through you, Chair, I believe the motion was to take it out of the operational budget, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I would seek direction from council on prioritization, since we have not done our June 18th service capacity review, of which areas you would like me to focus on.
Councillor Javetkov?
I would make a recommendation. If you give me the information, I'll go through it. Within a couple of days, I'll have a recommendation.
Yeah, that's not.
But they need to have the direction now before next council meeting.
And we all need to vote on it.
And we all need to vote on it. We can't
Well,
vote.
I can bring it to the next meeting.
How does that work timeline-wise, Duncan?
It will delay awarding the contract until we have a funding source.
And that puts the timeline back for our actual season of doing the work.
Correct.
Councillor Javetkov?
I think 2 weeks is not gonna make or break the project.
No.
If you want me to make a recommendation here before the end of the meeting, I could go through the thing now. I think there were a lot of recommendations last year in last year's budget talks that would be applicable.
All right, what is council's will?
My wish is that council deal with the recommendations for where the staff can find the money from at the next council meeting.
All right, Councillor Javetkov, you're seconding that?
I'll go through the budget with you.
Okay.
Right, is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. So what is our next move to staff? Councillor Schumann?
Well, I think it's ridiculous to think that we can just, at this late stage of the game, just start cutting services. And I don't understand how you think you're just going to jump into the operations budget and start cutting away. Like, I guess I'm a little blindsided by the original motion, and it's something that needs some thought to put to it. And as far as cutting the operations, I think we should just look at other projects, other capital projects that we can get this money from. I mean, I'm opposed to doing any of this, in fact, but honestly, I feel like this is something that we should wait until the next meeting and get some information if we have to make these decisions.
So my concern as well, I'll get to Councillor Javetkov, that we've just gone through the whole budget process, made those approvals, and now we're going to go back and hack it apart. And I think it's going to have to come out of other projects as well. We've addressed, looked at the fiscal gap, we've made decisions and changes, and now we're going to, start cutting pennies. But that's where I'm at. Councillor Javetkov.
So we passed a motion to include the full project, and Councillor Parslow and myself have offered to come back to the next meeting with a recommendation where the funding would come from. Like if you go back and you don't agree with doing the road project, that motion has already passed. As far as where the money comes from, administration is having a hard time determining what low priority work is included in the operational budget. We have offered to help with that and bring it back to the next meeting. I don't think 2 weeks is going to make or break the project. It's May 14th today. So the next meeting is, I believe, on the 30th. There's still lots of time. So I guess we can't bring that motion back, but as far as that was included in the original motion to take the money from operations. So do we go back to that motion and like, I'm just confused with the process here. You know, 2 weeks is not a lot of time. And if you don't agree with fixing the roads, that motion was passed already to do the repairs.
I don't think it's a matter of not fixing the roads, it's a matter of the process we're now on. So I have to staff and then to Councillor Schumann. Duncan?
So through you, Chair, if council would like to direct staff to look at the operational budget, some of the areas council could direct staff to look at are most subsidized, least community impact, or we could look at a model that is in a certain area, your higher areas, community services, protective services, some overarching direction, and staff will do our job and go through the operational budget and find that funding if that's what council would like, provide some options.
Okay. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to fixing roads. I'm opposed to sticking within the budget that staff has given us. I'm also opposed to the two of you going away and going through the budget and coming up with what we're going to cut. I would be more comfortable with staff. First of all, I'm not comfortable with it coming out of operations. I feel like if we're going to be making cuts to further, can you stop with that clicking? You're driving me crazy. I feel like it should come out of other capital projects, not out of the operations. And I feel like that should be staff's job to bring. I did not vote in favor of your motion. I voted against it. So I don't feel comfortable with the two of you going away and coming back with recommendations on what to cut from our operations.
So the motion was passed to take it out of operations, so now we need to set direction for staff. Councillor Javetkov?
I'm happy with Duncan's suggestion that they, you know, go through the budget and see where they can come up with low impact funding from operations.
All right, so your motion is for staff to bring back a report at the next council meeting on where they can find some low impact operational funds. Duncan?
So through Chair, low impact will be low impact to direct community use. Okay.
Okay, so that's your motion. Seconded, Councillor Parslow?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Is carried. Thank you, staff. All right, now we're on 7.7, report number 18-079 from Development Services Manager regarding cannabis implementation plan. Councillor Parslow?
I move that report number 18079 from the Development Services Manager re cannabis implementation plan be received. Further, staff be directed to proceed to RFP to perform research and create bylaw updates and policies based on the public engagement, best practices and council feedback received. And further, that staff be directed to start the public engagement and education portion of the implementation plan.
Do have seconder? Councillor Schumann. Any discussion? Councillor Javetkov?
I'm just wondering if this is premature. I don't know when, you know, when we have to have this finalized, but like when pot is actually approved by the government or you know, decriminalized. And the reason I'm asking is because it says here the RFP will be funded out of operational budget. Funds will be reallocated from those set aside for the South Peace Comprehensive Development Plan, which will likely not be going forward this year. I think the Comprehensive Development Plan is quite important to the city, and to defer funding from that for this purpose, if it's not you know, time sensitive, I think we should, you know, defer this project, I mean, to when we really need to implement it.
All right, Councillor Parslow and Councillor Schumann.
Well, I would like staff to respond. I think I know why the comprehensive plan is being deferred, but it's all to do with our OCP, isn't it, and where that is and what's going on with that?
So through your worship, there's some alignment, but it's also a regional activity coordinated by the regional district. We followed up with the regional district, Alex, and it doesn't appear that it's going to get pulled together this year. So we're not intentionally squashing that project. It just doesn't look like it's going to be able to be coordinated within the region.
So further to that point, in talking to staff about this briefly on Thursday, I am supporting this motion because I think we are not certain when as you put it, the portal is going to be opened. And it's always, my philosophy is always better be proactive than reactive. And I think there is a good piece of work to be done here, and we should do it well. And otherwise we could get ourselves into all sorts of unnecessary difficulties. So I support the need to get this done. I believe certainly it is uncertain yet, but I'm expecting this summer for sure, isn't it? Or am I out to lunch on this? No, okay.
Go ahead, please, Duncan.
So through you, Chair. So the province of British Columbia is responsible for issuing licenses. The portal Councillor Parslow refers to is a portal in which to submit an application, and as part of that application process, you will require approval from the local government. And so this is two pieces. One piece is getting some feedback from the community regarding marijuana or cannabis within the community and what that looks like. And the second piece is coming up with a plan once we have that feedback and it's time to update our bylaws, hiring a consultant to do that quickly in order to be ready for that request. We're receiving probably a request a week right now, whether it be medical or recreational. And at this point, we've told them that our zoning doesn't permit dispensaries. And as it gets closer, and once that portal is open, we expect we'll be getting a lot of requests. So we're trying to prepare. Council hasn't made any decisions on the cannabis yet. And really, this is about receiving public feedback. In particular, there's some big nuts, including smoking cannabis in public, which we will be getting a lot of feedback on. The dispensary piece, and also that growing marijuana at home as well.
Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, so I'm going to support this as well. I think it's May 14th today, and this could all come down in our laps by the end of July, beginning of August. I think it's prudent that we get our consultation with our community, find out how they feel about certain aspects of this legalization, and then get our bylaws and our zoning and everything up to date so that we can move forward.
So does this process also include vaping? Like we have our smoking bylaw, we're talking about medical, non-medical cannabis. Will it also include vaping? Is that?
Yeah, so through you, Chair. Alex, can you just talk about, I know it's seeds, oil, and bud, I guess, for lack of a better word. Where does vaping fall?
Through your Chair, it's going to include, vaping will be kind of in the public, smoking in public aspect of it, so we will be asking you.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Alex.
So that will be a component of the smoking bylaw, and also just to figure out how the community feels about things like vaping lounges. So that will be a part of the public consultation. Yes, at this point, the provincial government is saying that you can vape in certain areas of the public consultation. In my last report, edibles are not a part of this public consultation because they will remain illegal until further notice.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Javetkov?
So is there a budget assigned for this project?
Yeah, from the...
My understanding there is, yeah. Duncan?
So through you, Chair, the work is being done through our planner as far as this public consultation. I'll be taking on some of it myself, and we're reallocating the South Peace Comprehensive Development Plan funding for the bylaws.
So that's the entire funding for the...
That's the extent of it, unless the province or the federal government introduces some new information that changes how we roll it out. But at this point, from what we know to be true, in working with the province and the federal government, this is all that's required.
So what is the budget for the comprehensive development plan that's being transferred over?
Through your Chair, $30,000.
30,000?
Thank you.
And so through you, Chair, we don't anticipate using that entire amount, but that was funding that was available.
That was available, perfect, thank you. Well, I want to thank staff for their work on this because we need to be ahead of the game. If we're not ahead of the game, we're going to be so far behind that it's going to come at us and we'll have no control. So I do appreciate your work on this and keeping us ahead of the game. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? And it's carried. All right, we're going to do 7.8 and then we're going to have a 7-minute break. So 7.8 is report number 18-080 from the fire chief, and it's regarding a donation of equipment to Firefighters Without Borders. And my understanding, this is equipment that third world countries can use, but we can no longer use. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
I move the report 18080, redonation of equipment to Firefighters Without Borders from the fire chief be received, and further, that the City of Dawson Creek donate the equipment identified in this report to Firefighters Without Borders.
Seconded, Councillor McFadden. Any discussion? All those in, Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, I just wanted to say they're sending 11 sets of turnout gear, 11 structural firefighting helmets, uniform boots, firefighting boots, pants, shirts, and T-shirts.
Thank you. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And it's carried. All right, we'll break for 7 minutes. That was 8.1, and that's report number 18-076 regarding bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw. Councillor Javetkov?
So can I move that we give this bylaw first 2 readings? I don't see the bylaw in here, the copy of it, but the one I read this morning, there was no reference to the trespasses and stuff that we were talking about implementing. You know, like it still refers to complaint-driven enforcement. So I'd like some time to go over it again and to prepare better. But, so if we can move this one for first 2 readings, then I still have time to...
Procedurize. Duncan?
So through you, Chair, I think you're referring to the bylaw policy, 7.1, that was already approved. This particular bylaw update, Cindy, is really just identifying positions and new bylaws that have been approved, and also talks about fees. So if you're referring to bylaw and being complaint driven versus proactive versus reactive, that was already captured under 7.1 in the policy and approved.
Okay.
All right, so do we have Cheryl? Sorry, Councillor Schumann?
So then I would move it for the first of 3.
Councillor McFadden, any discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. All right, 8.2 is report number 18-077 from our Deputy Corporate Administrator regarding solid waste and recyclable material regulation bylaw number 4380-2018. Councillor Schumann?
I move report number 18077 from the Deputy Director of Corporate Administration regarding solid waste and recyclable material regulation bylaw number 4380-2018 be received. Further, that solid waste and recyclable material regulation bylaw number 4380-2018 be given the first of 3 readings. Further, that administration be directed to request feedback regarding the proposed bylaw and defer Council's consideration of adoption until the June 11th meeting.
Seconder? Councillor McFadden, discussion? Councillor Javetkov and Councillor Parslow?
I'd like to make a motion to introduce an amendment to the bylaw. Is that in order?
Sure.
Staff?
Yeah.
You could make a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor, I guess.
To amend the
First and a
motion?
seconder to make an amendment.
Okay, what I want to do is make an amendment to the actual bylaw.
You could only deal with the motion that's on the floor right now, so that would either not...
You can make an amendment to the motion that's on the floor right now.
Okay, I'll make an amendment then that we only issue for the first 2 readings, so we still have another kick at it.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Parslow, discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, the reason I second that motion is I'm a little confused about all the exemptions. I'm surprised as well at all the exemptions that are listed in that, and I don't have a handle on the rationale of why some businesses, I'm not picking on business, but using that as an example, can opt out. Why some parts can, so you know, these dated villages and apartments. So it seems to be we haven't had any discussion about that aspect of it. I mean, the rest of the bylaw is pretty straightforward, and so I'm just circling that one area of the bylaw. Certainly, council, I don't believe, has ever talked about opting out possibilities for people. If it's, I'm just being a bit of the devil's advocate, if an apartment block can opt out, why can't a single family dwelling? So I'm just confused about the rationale.
Staff, could you go offer some clarity on that, please?
Sure. So through you, Chair, as the bylaw is written, and I'll kind of walk through, but all residents participate in curbside garbage removal and curbside recycling. And then it goes further to say that anybody receiving curbside garbage must receive curbside recycling. And then it talks about some of these areas that are exempted, as you've mentioned. So commercial, industrial, mobile home parks, gated communities, apartments, townhouses can opt out if they use a commercial garbage bin. And a decision is made in particular with like the mobile home park by the owner. And it's a whole, it's not this house, next house, and therefore gated would be by the strata, and apartment again by the owner. These can be difficult places to provide curbside recycling, in particular apartments, in that you may have a series of individual recycling bins outside of that building. And the truck may not be able to get in there, and there's some language within the bylaw itself saying the general manager, I think, of development services has some discretion in some of these areas, as we may not be able to remove them. And so those are the areas that have been given exemption, in short.
So basically then, if you are currently receiving curbside garbage pickup, you will receive curbside recycling pickup, and if you don't, then you will not be getting the recycling program.
Yeah, so through you, your chair, yeah, so I think there's about 40, I think we identified 4,685 individuals currently receiving garbage removal. And I think 67 of those are businesses, commercial businesses, mostly in the downtown area. And also you have a couple of gated communities, some of which have commercial bins. I think 1 out of 4. 3 that are currently receiving curbside garbage removal and would be included. We don't currently remove garbage from apartments, and I think the townhouses are also mixed as far as who have commercial bins and who don't. And the mobile home parks, again, I think there's 2, and 1 receives curbside garbage removal and 1 doesn't. So these are split already.
Okay. Councillor Parsons?
So I don't understand why if you have, for let's say an apartment, and they have a large bin, a commercial type bin, why there couldn't be one set aside for recycling? I mean, I just, if this is so important, right, the single source recycling, it would seem so simple for a setup for them to replicate what they do with their waste already, you know what I mean? So they have one big container for their landfill waste, if I can use that expression, and another for their recycling.
I'll get staff to clarify, but I think that's based on what the landlord wants to.
But why should they have the option?
Staff?
Through Chair, if council would like to require gated communities, mobile home parks, apartments, industrial, commercial, to have those large recycle bins, council can do that. We haven't recommended it. We've mirrored our process after Fort St. John and some of the other communities, trying to ensure it rolls out with ease. You could make that decision now, or if you wanted to see how the program rolls out, you could implement that later. In the existing in the existing solid waste removal bylaw, you had left some discretion to some of those areas, and so we've just continued that.
So I have a question then. So we have some control over those curbside bins on how they're being used, what products are going in it, but we would not have that control over a commercial bin, would we?
They would be independent.
Independent. All right, any further discussion? Councillor Javetkov?
Well, the amendment motion is to just give the first 2 readings. And I'm assuming that after the first 2 readings at the next meeting, we would deal with input into the bylaw itself. I have the same concerns as Charlie. I mean, opting out should be an option. Not everybody in town necessarily will even have recycling. A lot of buildings a lot of houses are vacant. There's houses on our street that are boarded up. So it's, there has to be an option to opt out. But that's the reason that I would like to have, a thorough discussion about it, and allowing just the first 2 readings gives us an opportunity to have further discussion on it.
All right, Councillor Schumann and then staff.
Yeah, I'm voting against the amendment. I think that the bylaw is laid out wonderfully. I think it's given all the information. I don't think we're changing anything from our old bylaw other than we've added in the recycling, and I'm going to vote against your amendment.
All right, staff?
So through you, Chair, the community charter doesn't actually require that we receive feedback or public input. We've injected this into this particular case as we've already started to receive some of the feedback from the community. You could give it 2 readings, or you could give it 3. Ultimately, it needs to come back for adoption from council. If you gave it 2 readings, we would have to come back for a 3rd reading, and then we would have to have a meeting in between to adopt it. Ultimately, you will see this again, whether it's 2 or 3. You will see it 2 more times if it's 2 readings.
All right, thank you.
But my understanding is if we do 3 readings, then we've all accepted it, and we don't have an option to comment on it.
That's true. Staff?
So through you, Chair, I think the sign bylaw, we had moved for adoption and received some feedback, and that had been sent back to staff to update it. So there is an option.
Right.
Rescind 3rd. Sorry, go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, sorry, through you, Worship. You'd have to rescind 3rd and then make the amendments and then reread as amended.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
One more time, Councillor Javetkov.
That's not my understanding, but I guess if that's the way it is, then we have it on record. And
So we did do it. Yes, we have done it with another bylaw. All right, so all those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? It is defeated. So we are back talking about the original motion. Do we have any discussion on the original motion? All those in favor of the original motion? And it is carried. All
the ones that aren't in favor.
and, opposed. Recorded, Councillor Javetkov. My apologies. All right, so we are on Mayor's business, and we have a few requests, and then we will get to our exhibition grounds update. So our first request was from to fly the Norwegian flag, and I believe, staff, that would be for this week. May 17th is their date. Councillor Schumann?
I move that we fly the Norwegian flag as we do every year for the week of
May 14th for this week?
This week.
Sure. Okay. Seconded by Councillor McFadden. Any discussion? All those in favor? And it is carried. All right, now I don't know if I have these all in order. We have also a request from the Chamber with regards to use of the city logo on t-shirts, and that city staff, we don't actually have a Jeans Day, do we, here? Staff?
Through Chair, Friday is typically a
Okay.
casual day.
So that council and staff would wear a t-shirt on Jeans Day and that they have use of the city logo for their t-shirts.
So moved.
Councillor Parslow, seconder. Councillor Javetkov, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. All right, and then we have the request from the Mile Zero Cruisers regarding the no parking signs be set up and taken down by the city, put up on Saturday, collected on Sunday, is that correct? As well as having the streets and garbage cans clean prior to show and shine. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, I would move that we support the car club in their event.
Seconder, Councillor Javetkov, any discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. All right, and then the last request, I believe, was from the Canelta School Leadership Group regarding some funding for their travel costs to the legislature. Councillor Javetkov?
I'll move that we deny the request.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parslow, any discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Well, this whole area is something, you know, we are operating blindly with until we have some policy, and this is public money, and I voted against, it's a worthwhile thing, it's a long-range thing, but I don't think that's our business.
Okay, Councillor Javetkov?
This is another example that we discussed before. The original request was about 3 meetings ago, and I suggested that if we approve travel, we're going to get inundated with requests. Well, obviously that has happened. And we dealt with a bunch of sports teams' requests here at the last meeting, or the second to the last. And this, to me, falls under the same category. So, you know, I just don't think we should be funding these kind of trips.
Okay, anyone else? All right, all those in favor? It is carried. Okay, so with that, we'll move into our exhibition grounds update. And staff, I'm going to let you kind of update us on discussions so far that have taken place. I believe you and the mayor met with the group, so if you could update us on that.
Okay, through you, Chair. Welcome to the Exhibition Association. So on Friday, the mayor and I met with Connie Patterson, Murray Pratt, and Aaron McCoy. Our understanding is that the Exhibition Association had met with some of the users and had meetings throughout the week. And we discussed the needs in order to accommodate the fair this year. And so we came up with an action list, and the Exhibition Association committed to some of those items. And the other items, the mayor and I committed to bring back to council, which we're doing today. And so the exhibition plan to accommodate the fair, sorry, this is all a result of our most recent engineer's report and those facilities that have been identified as end of life. The exhibition plan, fairly broad, and I won't speak too much on their behalf, but is to utilize the auction mart where they can, to utilize office trailers or self-contained office trailers. We also discussed together about bringing in self-contained camp kitchens. We talked about some of the buildings that could be possibly fixed, like the lighthouse. We talked about the rental of additional washrooms, and we talked about the use of tents in place of some of those structures that are no longer usable. And the direct request to the city was some demolition work. We did have a hazmat report completed. We received that on Friday. Some of the older buildings, some of the barns, some of the food booths do contain lead. And they do contain some asbestos material like linoleum and insulation. And so we met with a contractor on site on Friday who worked very hard over the weekend to get us some pricing, conscious of the hazardous materials that were within the building. We are still waiting for a couple more prices, and if council decides to fund the project, I wouldn't get specific on individual pricing. I would keep it as a bundle and to ensure that that's a fair process. But in short, the demolitions included the barns, also included 2 washrooms, and included 2 food booths. So the demolition of the barns is to accommodate some tent structures. The demolition of the washrooms is to make space for portable washrooms that can be rented. And the demolition of 2 food booths is to make room for self-contained camp kitchens. And further, the request to the city is to rent 2 portable kitchens and 30 porta potties, 6 hand wash stations, and also to work with the group to fix the beer garden. Overall, I believe it's a high estimate, but this is about $300,000. I think this is a little high, but this has left some contingency to deal with the beer gardens. And I think council's decision points, if council chooses, would be whether council will choose to fund this demolition in order to accommodate it, and if so, where that funding will come from, as well as waiving the purchasing policy or setting another form of purchasing policy in order to expedite the process, if council chooses to do that. I think that's all I have. I've tried to keep council in the loop, and some of this information is going to be new for the Exhibition Association as new information comes in particular regarding the beer gardens themselves and working on a fix. As far as we're aware, working with the engineer, their concerns are with the wooden posts that support the trusses, and so I'm not quite sure what that fix looks like yet.
Okay, perfect. All right, and so to be clear too, this is to keep it up and running for this year and kind of some short-term things that can be done as we move into a long-term plan.
So through you, Chair, this is not the removal of all of the buildings. This is the removal of the buildings required to free up space, so the temporary structures, rented structures, etc., could be accommodated on the grounds and utilized during the fair.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Councillor Parslow.
So to staff, where is the money coming from?
So through you, Chair, we're looking, and I mentioned this, I believe in a previous meeting, we're looking at reallocating funding from an existing capital project is where we looked at that. And so I've gone back and looked at the projects that have started and already have commitments, have been tendered or awarded, and looked at projects that haven't been started yet. So those projects that have not been started include the airport engineering and public consultation process that council approved staff to go out to RFP. That RFP is in development but has not been issued yet. That's $200,000. We also have restricted money in the flood mitigation fund of $500,000. We have not received our report from Edwater on that funding just yet. It's likely we may spend some of that money this year, but not the entire amount. The season has started for construction, and we don't have any engineering or RFP process in place, and we're not aware of exactly what we're doing just yet. We also have a phone system at the Encana Event Center for $95,000 that has not started yet. We also have security cameras at the Encana Event Center that has not started yet of $125,000. And we also have flooring, which was a carryover from 2017, which has not started yet at $350,000. I can go through the projects. The phone system is needed. It has operated to date. The security cameras is needed. However, we haven't had them to date, and they were added as a late project. And the flooring is a move towards sport tourism and event tourism. However, we do have a date booked in September to have ice, and potentially another event in October with ice. And that project wouldn't commence until most likely November.
Okay. Councillor Schumann?
Sorry, I had one more.
Oh, sorry,
one more.
staff, sorry.
Through you, Chair, we also have the unallocated capital reserve. This is not recommended at this time. This fund is used to fund granted projects until that grant money arrives. It's also used to support operations early in the year, as opposed to going out and doing short-term borrowing. We restricted over $2 million from that fund through the airport and through flood mitigation already, and wouldn't be recommended to utilize that funding.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Councillor Schumann and then Councillor Jabeco.
Yeah, so we're looking for $300,000.
Through you, Chair, correct.
Initially.
I hope that it will be less than that, but that is a high estimate.
Okay. So we're looking for $300,000, and certainly from the list of projects here that staff just give us an update on, I feel like we can certainly find that money in there, and I feel that it's certainly something that we need to do. This fair is happening in just a few short months, and we need to get this done. So some of these things are just going to have to wait.
Okay, Councillor Javetkov, then Councillor Parslow.
So we've got some contracts that have already been issued or gone out for bids, and they're considerably under budget. Can we draw from those contracts?
So through you, Chair, I'd have to go back and look at what that surplus is. Council today approved utilizing some of the surplus from grants received for a boiler at the airport. We're currently operating on one. Last year we lost that boiler and had to rent a temporary boiler. So some of that grant money has been allocated to that boiler. We could, Council could choose a project and identify that any surplus remaining through other projects be reallocated back to this project as they're all needed.
Okay. All right. Councillor Parslow. And then.
I thought another source of revenue was would require, I guess, a bit of a bylaw change, but the proceeds of the sale of the reclaimed water, you didn't comment on that one.
So through your worship, we're still receiving legal advice regarding fees and charges, or fees or charges being utilized for general capital. Typically, those funds remain in those reserves, the sewer reserve or the water reserve. We believe there is some flexibility if you can show that the reserve is healthy and can fund future projects. But when you have those fee-based reserves, there is some onus to show that it can fund future projects. So I could go back and look at that, although off the top of my head, looking at Adam's 5-year report, it showed sewer projections of $400,000 in reclaim, and it showed that it was going to be close as far as funding those projects. There may be some funding available, but I don't know what that looks like at this time.
Well, supplementary to that, it's been said that we will be reaping an awful lot of sales in the future. So I'm just surprised that our sewer would be tight, given the hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue we've received from the sale of water. Where's that money gone to? I've always thought it was going to be a potential something of a savior to us from the point of view of an important ingredient to a long-term financial plan that would put the city on a more stable footing.
Staff, if you could answer that, please.
So through you, Chair, last year, I believe, is one of our most profitable years at the Reclaim Center. I believe it was over $1 million in revenue. In previous years, I know there's years that it's broken even, and there's been years where it didn't break even, and the cost of operation was less than revenues received. So it's seen both sides. This year we're not seeing the numbers that we saw last year so far. That could change as spring and breakup ends. We may get an influx, but at this point we haven't seen the movement through the floatplane base or through the reclaim truck facility.
Thank you. So I mean, staff's given us quite a list of where we have money available to push this through. So I just want to keep that in mind before we ad hoc the budget. So, Councillor Puzzle, I have Councillor Javetkov, and then I'll let you.
I'll move that we approve the $300,000 budget for this project based on utilizing funds from, I think, preferably contracts that have been awarded or in the process that are considerably under budget first, if that's feasible, and then going to other capital projects, lowest impact, first priority.
All right, do I have a seconder? Councillor Schumann, discussion? Councillor Parslow, then Councillor Schumann.
I just want to talk about the $300,000 that's mentioned in this motion. So if we break out the beer garden for the moment, okay, the rest of the stuff that you've talked about is temporary. I believe I have portable potties and whatever, kitchens and things. Am I right? That's all temporary?
So through you, Chair, the majority or the brunt of the cost is in demolition.
Thank you.
Which at some point the city would be removing these facilities as they're not repairable and they've been deemed end of their life, so we wouldn't allow people in there. So the brunt of the expenditure is not a loss leader per se. It's something that we would do now. We wouldn't necessarily do it this year, but at some point we would have to.
No, thank you. It's my miss there. So can you give me a breakdown of 300 in just rough figures? How much of that 300 is for the demolition of the things you listed? How much is for the temporary replacement of those things for the operation this fall? And then how much is for the beer garden? So I'm asking for 3 figures.
So
Off the top of your head.
Off the top, and you're not going to be held to this.
No, but through your worship, because we are still waiting for some quotes, I'm hesitant to break it down too fine. I would say I feel that without working our way through the beer gardens and that fix, you're probably around $230,000, and that's demos and rentals and some electrical work. Council directed that we go back and look at the electrical in some of the existing buildings, and so that's also been included in there. You're around 230 when you throw in fixing the beer gardens. Depending on what that looks like, there's a cost to either remove trusses possibly or maybe even possibly demo. We'll have to work with the group on that piece. And then there's some contingency because regardless of whether we remove or demo trusses, you need a covered area. It's our understanding that that covered area is important within the beer gardens, and that the Exhibition Association relies very heavily on the revenue from the beer gardens as well.
Thank you. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this list again of the places where we could get the money. Obviously, if we can see some savings in these tenders, that would be a great place to start, and I totally agree with you on that. And then moving forward, you talked about the flooring, how we're going to be sort of pushing that project until we can get these ice events out of the way. So I would think about deferring the flooring a little bit, the security cameras that we do not have and have never had. Those sort of would be my my idea of where we would go next for the money, and utilizing some of the floodwater mitigation. We've got $500,000 stuck away for that. I can't see that we're going to utilize that $500,000 right away. So those would be sort of my first go-tos to find this money.
Duncan?
So through you, Chair, I would request that you pick a project, just because we don't have that surplus available now. If you were going to pick a project and identify surplus to be reallocated back to that project, you would want to pick projects that could wait, I guess, or aren't anticipated starting right away. On this list, I think the phone system is very close to being started, and the airport engineering and public consultation. If you want to have that work ready to apply for grants in 2019, and the public consultation piece, you really should start that right away. If you don't intend to have that ready and you want to stretch that project out, then you could utilize that funding. But As far as timing, the flooring, some work needs to be done on it, but it's not anticipated to being installed until possibly November at the earliest. And the flood mitigation, without the report and without the recommendations, I really don't know what that expenditure looks like either at this time. Security cameras, they are needed as identified, but until we have curtain and drape in order to light up the concourse, that piece of the security camera project will have to wait. As far as exterior and other areas, that could be done right away. So you might want to pick a project that's later, slated for later.
Okay, Councillor Parslow, Councillor Javetkov, and Councillor Schumann.
Yeah, I may remind Council the flood mitigation money is not necessary to spend this year. It is set aside for being able to fund whatever project costs will come out of it, and we know it's going to be multi-million dollars. So I will not support anything that involves the touching of that flood money, for sure. And I don't know if I will support any of these things being touched. Deferral just gets the city deeper and deeper into a problem. I believe we will find the revenue from, if you're not successful with the water, then looking at the history of bids and what they've come in at, you'll be able to find that money. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Javetkov.
So I agree the flood money is important, but if we're not going to kick the project off here right away, there's enough money in there, like the budget is 500,000. We take the 300,000 out and then we follow up with finding the surpluses in the existing contracts and putting that money back in there. That gives you some time and it gives you some certainty as to where the money's coming from today.
Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, I support that 100%. We do not have those studies back. This money is put away for a rainy day, no pun intended. But I think that we need to scoop that money from there, and any extras that come out of the tendering processes go back into that. There's another budget year coming up next year, and we can top it up again then.
So process-wise, to staff, we can just add to the motion that's on the floor where we would like that money to come from until we know what our surplus is?
Yes, so through you, Chair, we would ask that you identify the project through an amendment and also identify that any funding saved throughout the year on projects that come in be reallocated back into that pot. I would also like to note that we're looking for direction from council as far as, if approved, and I'm ahead of myself here, as far as the award of the demolition contract. We're currently pursuing 3 quotes. We have 1 already, and we'd ask that you waive the tender process and direct staff to award to the lowest of the 3 quotes in order to expedite the project, if approved.
Okay, so Councillor Schumann, are you making an amendment?
Yeah, so I would amend the original motion to include that we would take the money out of the floodwater mitigation fund and then redirect any money from tenders that in the excess back to that fund, and that we waive the tender process to have staff award the demolition contracts to the lowest tender. As an amendment.
Okay. Councillor McFadden, any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment? Are you in favor or opposed?
I'm in favor.
Okay, so it's carried. Councillor Parslow, do you want it recorded that you're opposed?
Right.
Yep. All right, so now we have on the floor an amended motion. Do we have any discussion on that amended motion? All those in favor of the amended motion? Opposed? It's carried. Councillor Parslow is against. All right. Well, we're moving forward, but I just want to say thank you to the Exhibition Association for all your work, and we'll get there. We will get there.
I just,
Can I say something? Am I allowed to?
As long as council votes, everyone in favor of Connie, go ahead.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm saying thank you. Maybe I won't be saying that in a few days, but I'm saying thank you now from all of us. We have 82 days till we're ready to go. It's going to really take some time and a lot of work and some good weather. We took on a project of $80,000 to put the track to where it needs to be for 2022, which is our big year that we're working towards. We've also signed up with professional bull riding for the next 4 years. We'll be doing with them in December 1st around that date each year. That money's been allocated to the 2022 is to help us get ready for that. There is a lot of old buildings there. We need to do a lot of talking. And so thank you for this, and hopefully we pull it off.
I have full faith that you will pull it off. I have yet to see you fail.
I'm not promising the world, we'll see.
But we'll get there, and we'll get there
Thank you so much.
together.
Thank you so much.
Yep, Councillor McFadden?
Just a brief follow-up, I guess, to staff. What are we looking at for timeline here? If what we've approved today goes ahead within the next few days, are we looking at a month or 6 weeks to get the demo done and the temporary stuff up?
So
ballpark.
Through you, Chair, we have 82 days. So the demo needs to happen right away with those contaminated lead and asbestos. That'll be the slowest process. So that needs to happen right away. So the timeline is immediately in 82 days.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, it was an obvious question.
Councillor Javetkov, did you?
Well, I just wondered about the motion now to speed up this whole tendering process that can drag out for like 2 months.
We just waived that.
Appropriate now to make the motion to...
We just did.
That was
It
amended.
was a part of the motion, we waived it.
That was part of the
Yeah.
amendment, yeah.
Done.
Onwards and upwards.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so diary
Nothing to update, Chair.
and consent calendar, motion to receive items. Councillor Schumann, Councillor McFadden, any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to, maybe you have some update from NCLGA. There's an item here around from the Passenger Transportation Board, the Greyhound busing. Is anybody, obviously the decision is not to try to get Greyhound to reverse their decision has been agreed upon, so right now the North has no service.
So I was on a call with the Minister of Transportation. They are working with BC Transit to provide a base service on highways, so that excludes, say, for example, Mackenzie, off-highway service, but a base service with BC Transit. They're also in talks with Northern Health. That is as far as we got in the conversation as the bell rang and everybody was called to vote. So she will be planning a follow-up call to give us more information, but they are working with BC Transit on a base highway service.
Base highway service.
Councillor Schumann?
And at the end of the month, our executive committee from NCLGA is traveling down to Victoria for some meetings, and I imagine this subject will come up. As well, I believe that Mayor Bumstead is in Victoria right now and will be meeting with the Minister of Transportation as well. So maybe he will have some more to say on the matter when he comes home with an update on what happened in those meetings as well.
So, and from the Greyhound side of things, the drivers that would be losing those routes have been given the option to accept jobs in other areas where they need drivers or take retirement. So that's an option that's been given out to the Greyhound drivers, which also affects our communities because they live within them. Does that satisfy you, Councillor Parslow?
Well, I appreciate you sharing what you know. It's a big issue for me. I'm sure it is for you as well.
Yeah. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? It's carried. Strategic priorities chart?
Through you, Chair, just the June 18th meeting with Gord McIntosh, working on prioritization of city services. And we're working our way right now through the fiscal gap survey and that educational component. So if you haven't filled out your survey or posted it on your Facebook page, please get it out there. I don't have the stats.
Share.
I think we're at about 300 surveys received, I believe the last number I heard.
Okay, so I'm sure all of us that have Facebook can share that and get it out there. All right, and with that, I will adjourn the May 14th council meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Then we need a vote on